It's FlamesNation Radio, and guess what, folks? Yep. Training camp time. I'm Ryan. He's Shane. Welcome back, everybody. After seemingly weeks and months of Shane and I talking about any number of non-active hockey topics, we talked about movies, we talked about food, we talked about our feelings briefly, both on and off air. We have feelings, I'm told. And now the feeling that we're both feeling is amped up for training camp. How about that for a segue? As always, we're delivered to you at FlamesNation Radio by our good friends at DoorDash, and also presented by Eau Claire Distillery's Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. And it was an interesting. We had the season opening press conference with Brad Treliving this afternoon around noon hour. Brad was in a good mood. I think he said we'll see a lot, because it's, by my count, there's we're going to go through the roster later on, but of the 44 players as of right now under active NHL contracts, 12 of them weren't with the Flames last year at training camp. And so if you're Brad Treliving and you're thinking, how's the team going to look? His answer was, Shane, we'll see. And like, what do we think we know about the hockey club right now? They have the two same goaltenders from last year who will be in the same role. Their third string goaltender, Dustin Wolf, also in the same role. Danil Chechilev will be in the coast again. He'll be in the same role. And then for forwards and for defense, there's, who knows? And I think that's going to make it a very interesting few weeks here.
A lot of new faces. That's the kicker. A lot of new faces. There's no real, like, the only line that returns from last year completely 100% intact was the Mangiapane Backlund Coleman line. That was so good. And we don't even know if they'll be together yet. In the words of Brad, we'll see. Like we're going to have to let this stuff start to play out. But I mean, we can at least talk about who's here, right? Like who's at camp and who's here fighting.
We might as well dive in. So we'll go first. We'll quickly run through the gentlemen who aren't at camp, and most of them are not at camp for good reasons. Parker Bell was invited to prospect camp. I believe he suffered just a minor injury in the WHL preseason. So he's the only person who didn't play a single game at Penticton. Actually, and I believe it was his injury that was the reason why they invited Cooper Walker from Guelph to the team in the first place. So, kind of fun, but unfortunately Parker Bell won't be at training camp, and hopefully he feels better, because he's going to be an important player for Tri-City this year. Also not in attendance, and none of these names are surprising, college players are Arsenij Sergayev, who's at UConn, Jake Boltman, who's at Notre Dame, Matt Coronado, who's at Harvard, Dimitrios Koumantzis, who's at Arizona State, Josh Nodler is now Josh Nodler is now at I believe UMass. UMass Amherst. Cade Lidler is he's an NCAA eligible player, so he's playing in the BCHL with the Wenatchee Wild. They just finished up their preseason. They're getting going on the weekend. And of the college, the European players are William Stromgren, now of Brynäs in the Swedish Hockey League, and Topi Roni of Tappara in the Liga. So those guys aren't there. It is collegiate players and European players entirely. They're European. They're getting ready for their seasons, and they're not under contract anyway, so you wouldn't expect to see them. The tryout, actually, the next category we got is unsigned prospects. Unsigned prospects are guys who are on the Flames reserve list who don't have contracts, but the Flames hold the rights. So these guys, there's 5 of them. There's Lucas Siona, Jack Beck, Cole Huckins, Cole Jordan, and Cameron Wynot. These guys will probably be around until the
3 days
past the weekend.
That was last year with 2 days, I think it was.
Yeah, the way it's set up is the Flames are playing the home and home split squad game on Sunday, 2 games simultaneously. The game in Vancouver is on Sportsnet. For those of you asking, are any of the games to be broadcast? My understanding is the Calgary-based game will be broadcast on the radio on Sportsnet 960. The Vancouver-based game will be broadcast on TV on Sportsnet. It's going to be the Vancouver Crew. That's the only preseason game that's going to be televised, as far as I know. And I believe outside of that home game, the rest of the games are going to be broadcast on radio on 960.
And Sportsnet should have the feed on Sportsnet now too, if you subscribe.
I think so.
NHL Live has been absorbed into Sportsnet now for Canadians wondering. So if you're an NHL Live subscriber like I was, you probably got an email and you can go. But that's going to be the way to watch hockey without paying for cable this year, folks, in Canada.
Exactly. So yeah, those 5 guys will probably be around until that the Sunday games are over, and then they'll be sent back to where they came from. The exception might be Lucas Siona, because the Flames play on Tuesday in Seattle, and Lucas Siona plays the Seattle Thunderbirds. So my guess is, if I'm a betting man, I would imagine, unless he's terrible in camp, they have him play for his, he'd come to Seattle and he play against the Kraken, and then they just leave him there. I can't guarantee anything, but if I were trying to keep a good prospect who just went to the WHL finals motivated, that's a nice way of doing it. I think that's the kind of things the Flames tend to do. The tryouts, there's 8 players who have no contract whatsoever with the Flames organization and are not currently considered Flames property. And these are kind of the fun names. So we'll go, let's go goaltenders out. Goaltender Brad Arvanitis, who's he has a fascinating story. So I think we talked about him a couple weeks ago. He was in Div 3 last year. He started the year in NCAA Div 3 and then signed with the Rapid City Rush, played pretty well for the Rush. More likely than not, he'll be in a tandem this season in Rapid City with Danil Chechilev. As far as I know, Arvanitis is the only Div 3 player to ever go from Div 3 to an NHL camp, or at least in Flames history that happening. So it's kind of fun. He's raw, but he had really good numbers in Div 3, but Div 3. But he's in camp. Michael Stone's in camp on a PTO. Kelowna graduate Jake Lee is aged out of the WHL. He's looking for a place to play, so he's in camp. He's a defenseman. Christopher Seedoff, who's in camp from prospect camp. He used to try out, plays for Red Deer, really good player. He's sort of bounced around a lot. He's here. The aforementioned Cooper Walker, back from prospect camp, as is Evan Bouchard from the Halifax Mooseheads, who again, he's an interesting one because he played in an Ontario Junior A, and then Halifax needed a guy, so they called him up mid-season, and he ended up having a heck of a second half. He's probably going back as an overager, but he's around. The other PTOs, guys you might have heard of, are Cody Eakin and Sonny Milano. Cody Eakin, if you're someone who wants to read into jersey numbers, and I know who you are, Mike, but if you're someone who wants to read into jersey numbers, Sonny Milano got 15 and Cody Eakin got 50. We're not saying that a low jersey number makes it easier for you to make the team. We're just putting that out there. I would argue that Sonny Milano more readily fills the needs the Flames have, but
Cody Eakin, there's a he provides competition for the fourth line roles. Like he provides a bar that you got to set if you want to be a fourth line guy. Like that's Walker Dewar territory. Walker Dewar played games last year. If Walker Dewar wants to make the team this year, we have one game.
He played one more game than you and I played. So
he played a game in the NHL. Like that's no slouch, man. But that's the bar. You've got to be consistently better than Brett Ritchie because they brought him in, or Cody Eakin. And that's the bar. If no one's better than Cody Eakin, they sign Cody Eakin. That's how this is going to work.
Exactly. They got 10 guys on American League deals, guys who are going to be playing for the Wranglers and got invited to camp, partially because, in previous years when the Flames had a farm team elsewhere, there was really no point in bringing some of these fringe guys in. They usually saved the plane fare and just sort of kept them in their home markets, and then just sort of they start up. Like say, if Stockton had 10 guys on AHL contracts, maybe the best 5 would come to Calgary for camp, just to get them a taste.
But they're all going to be here anyways.
Yeah, they're here anyway, so they're all in camp, and so as a result, there's fewer weird tryout players this year. But the guys on AHL deals are, in no particular order, Brett Sutter, Alex Gallant, Lucas Folk, Mitch McLean, Calder Brooks, Matt Marcineau, Simon Levine, Rhett Reinhardt, Josh Brook, and Danil Chechilev. Brett Sutter is, yes, the son of Flames head coach Daryl Sutter. All these guys, Chechilev is a Flames pick. He's Flames property. Folk is a Flames pick. He's Flames property. Josh Brook was formerly with the Montreal organization.
Second round pick.
he's got some, he's an interesting guy. So I don't think any of these guys will be getting NHL deals because, as we'll mention in a second, they have a lot of guys already on NHL deals. I think they want to maintain some flexibility, but yeah, they got 10 guys on AHL deals. And if, some of them it's a combination of names you've heard of, names you haven't. It's some young guys, it's some old guys. I think they have a nice mix of people and types of players here. A decent number of these guys will probably be in Rapid City for a portion of the year. So
yeah,
we'll see.
East Coast Hockey League, new affiliate, no longer Kansas City Mavericks. But yeah, they're good. Like Brett Sutter's going to be a real good leader, and he gets to live back home with close to his parents, which I love. But yeah, I'm with you on Pike. I don't see many of them actually sticking around. The only one that really has that crazy potential to stick around and actually maybe get an NHL deal might be Josh Brook, 23-year-old, high profile, right shot, big, 6'7", I think. I'd have to look it up again. Defenseman.
He's a big boy. He's a right shot, I believe. So
yeah, so we'll see that. Like you said, we've got 10
10
now.
guys.
10 guys on one ways. There's only, and now we found out today Oliver Shillington will miss camp for personal reasons.
He's going to be late to camp. They were vague about the timelines of it. So we'll see. It's at the very least, it opens up some time in camp in the preseason games for other guys. We might as well dive into the 44 guys on NHL contracts. Let's see if my voice gives out.
Let's do the easy one first, Mike. Let's do the goalies.
Let's do this by position. So in goal, Jacob Markstrom, Dan Vladar, Dustin Wolf, Oscar Dansk. There are no surprises there. I would be shocked if if anyone put Markstrom and Vladar make the team. On defense, there are a bunch of guys. Noah Hannafin, Mackenzie Weegar, Oliver Shillington, Rasmus Anderson, Nikita Zadorov, Chris Tanev, Connor Mackey, Nick Malosh, Dennis Gilbert, Yusuf Valimaki, Colton Poolman, Nick DeSimone, Ilya Slavyev, Jeremy Poirier, and Ian Kuznetsov. There are a few guys that obviously have the inside track. You know who you are, Hannafin, Weegar, Shillington, Anderson, Zadorov, Tanev. The X factors are, so Tanev, we asked Bradford Living today, Tanev is expected to be a full participant. They're probably going to hold him out of preseason games to start, just like they did with Sean Monahan, the year when Sean Monahan was coming off of his many surgeries, because there's no point in having, Tanev getting up to speed and then having him get wrecked up in a preseason game. There's simply no point. But he's on the team. He's not going to, by all counts, he's not going to be on LTI or anything like that. Shillington's an X factor. We were told he's away from the team dealing with what was termed a personal family issue.
Yes.
And it was the only thing that's specified by Bradford Living is it's not substance abuse related. At times, the NHL clubs have used language to talk around players' involvement in the NHL substance abuse program. There's no harm in if you have issues you have to deal with. There's no harm in doing them. Carey Price had to deal with those, I believe, last year.
Still is.
He still is, yeah. So, we're not here to speculate on what Shillington's going through. All we know is what we were told it wasn't.
And they did ask for privacy for Shillington as well. They said, please.
So if you're on social media, please don't speculate over it. There's nothing good will come of going, what does that mean? It means what they said. So we'll leave it there. All the best to Oliver Shillington. Good kid, good player. Hopefully he's back soon. Beyond that, there's some interesting names. Mackey, Malosh, Valimaki are the guys kicking around potentially for a role.
Those are the guys fighting,
until the sun expands and envelops the earth. Our assumption is that Michael Stone is going to be in contention for that 7th guy spot because he did it last year and he was really good at it. So the defense, who plays with who and who plays where, and who gets that 7th spot will be an ongoing storyline for the Flames. For forwards, again, there's a lot of them in no particular order. Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman, Andrew Mangiapane, Elias Lindholm, Tyler Toffoli, Dylan Dubé, Michael Backlund, Trevor Lewis, Milan Lucic, Kevin Rooney, Matthew Phillips, Jacob Pelche, Cole Schwint, Walker Duehr, Martin Pospisil, Ben Jones, Adam Klapka, Emilio Peterson, Connor Zary, Brett Ritchie, Clark Bishop, Rory Carrions, Ilya Nikolaev, and Adam Ruzicka. I believe that's everybody. And I even remember Brett Ritchie. Good for
Yeah,
you,
and you
Ryan.
didn't even have him because he just got added to the portal. Like,
Oh, I put him on this. I put him on. Yeah, I put him on when Eric Francis tweeted.
Oh, franchise said it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can usually take franchise to the bank, except when you can't. But this time you could. Again, like the defense, you can sort of see there's some guys that seem pretty solidified, although who plays with who will be very much up in the air. And then, like there's some, let's be honest here. You're not gonna spend you're not gonna bring in Trevor Lewis and not use him. How much does he play? I don't know. You're not going to sign Brett Ritchie to a one-way and not use him. Although, how much does he play, and does he float up and down? I don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to mention about the Ritchie and the Stone of it all. The minor league team being in Calgary makes this an easier decision. If you need to send these players to the minors, it's not like they have to uproot their life and move to California, their family, be away from their families. They could still be there at home. Previously, before we come on, we did mention Ritchie is a one-way, and that means he's going to get paid the same money regardless whether he's in with the Wranglers or the Flames.
And let's discuss an elephant in the room. So, friends, in the NHL, there's a thing known as escrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so under the CBA, hockey-related revenues are split 50-50 between the owners and the players. And the mechanism they use to make sure that they're splitting it 50-50 is escrow. So essentially, in a typical year, in a non-weird situation, they'll hold back 10 to 12% of each player's paycheck. And then at the end of the year, they audit the financial numbers and they go, oh, okay, we forecasted correctly. So they give all the money back, or they forecasted a little bit down. So they keep some of the money. But anyway, escrow is essentially the holdback they use to make it 50-50. So here's the rub. There's no 50-50 split in the American League. American leagues are the American League, aside from a few players that count against the NHL cap, it is simply, players are on an American League deal. The NHL teams have a separate budget. It's not counted against the cap. That's why you see some teams, rich teams, we're looking at you, Toronto. Who said that? But teams with high revenue are able to spend for things that aren't counted in the cap, like say, a lot of veterans for their farm team, or a lot of scouts, or a large analytics department, or whatever. And so what happened, one of the benefits of the Flames is they have the ability with a farm team in their own city to put guys, through waivers and then send them down. And if you're let's just say Brett Ritchie, because he's the easiest guy to discuss it about. Yeah. He's making $750,000. And so if he's in the NHL, he gets the $750 outside of escrow. If you're in the AHL, there's no escrow, so you're getting your money no matter what.
Full check right away.
Granted, I mean, guys in the AHL tend to make a lot less. Generally speaking, if you're on an entry level deal, you're making $70,000. Some of the more senior AHL guys are on deals making about $100,000, $120,000, $200,000, depending on the guy. Example, was it? I believe, make sure I get the number right because I don't want to get this wrong. But Adam Ruzicka just signed a two-way deal, and so he's guaranteed to make $375 this year. So
no matter in the minors, they like after you've kind of established yourself as a semi-pro, like someone who's played some games and you can call up, they'll raise your AHL deal. His second year of his deal is a one-way though. Like the second
one way at league min. That was a clever deal. I gotta say,
way to get a spot.
That's a tiny bit of business, because if you're, let's elephant in the room, the Flames, they're not capped out, but they're close to capped out. And what's going to end up happening for the Flames is, and Brad Hurley actually mentioned this, our friend Donna Spencer from Canadian Press, she asked the question during the press conference about, hey, what's the benefit, of having your farm team in town? And Brad, it was pretty interesting. Brad's first thing he mentioned was the cap benefits. And he said, first of all, the cap. And what he meant by that is, so during the taxi squad year, many moons ago, 2 seasons ago, 2021, I think it was. Yeah, 2021. The NHL had a taxi squad. So it's essentially, I believe it was 5 or 6 guys outside of your NHL roster who can they're hanging around your team. They're the stay ready squad. Daryl Sutter called it the stay ready squad. He did not like having an extra 6 guys kicking around, by the way. But the idea being, like, in the event you had somebody get sick, get injured, whatever, you could bring somebody who was close by. You didn't need to worry about an international border and a pandemic complicating getting human bodies in for your team. And so the Flames infamously waived Derek Ryan and then sent him down, and then just they called him up whenever they needed him. And they saved, I mean, he was on a decent deal, but I believe at the time you could bury about just over $1 million of cap space in the AHL, and $1 million prorated over however many days made a difference for the Flames. And so if you're the Flames, you're by the NHL's rules, you have to have 20 players, active players, as in 20 players who are not on the injured reserve, 20 active players on your roster at any given time. You dress 20, you dress 2 goaltenders and 18 skaters. So you need to have as many guys on your active roster at any given point to field a team. You can have up to 23, which means you have 3 roster spots that in theory, you could park those guys in the American League until you need them, call them up just for the game, play them, and then send them down afterwards. And that's what the Flames and a lot of teams did during the taxi squad year. And I know you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, doesn't that kind of suck for the guys that go up and down? Yeah, it does kind of suck for them. But if you're on a one-way deal, like Brett Ritchie is, like Michael Stone might be, I assume Michael Stone, if he signs, will be signing one-way. A lot of these guys who are on the sort of, but those, the extra guys would be making their NHL money no matter where they go. Or they'd be like Adam Ruzicka, where they have a minimum salary they're guaranteed. So if you're going to be playing silly games with the cap, you can build your gamesmanship into your contract structure of your guys. And if you're a team that is willing to spend $800,000 on a guy, whether or not he's on your roster, and let's elephant in the room, the Flames did, the Flames didn't do poorly financially last year after the playoffs. I think during the regular season, they probably weren't, I'm sure they would have loved to have had better attendance throughout the year. Half houses and no concessions wasn't great. And I think anyone that says, oh, the Flames are doing rich, I think that's a wild oversimplification, because not pretty much, I doubt very many NHL clubs made money the way they are used to. And let's be honest, it's not like you get into the NHL for making a crap load of money. You get into the NHL for any number of other reasons, but it's a tough game, baby. It's a tough business to operate because there's a ton of logistical issues, even in non-pandemic years. So, I would imagine most NHL teams would love to forget the last couple of years, but playoffs, 2 rounds of playoffs, especially 2 rounds of playoffs against Edmonton, where you're selling lots of jerseys and lots of beer, and the building's full, and everyone's jacked up. And especially now, shout out to our friends in the Flames merchandise department. They're going to be selling a crap ton of Kadri jerseys and Uyghur jerseys and Huberdeau jerseys. All due respect to the departed players, they had sold the Gaudreau and Kachuk jerseys they were going to sell. But so anyway, that's a long way of saying, if you're the Flames and if you think that the difference between winning a Stanley Cup and having the depth to potentially win a Stanley Cup and not is having a Brett Ritchie as your flex forward up and down from the AHL in a one-way, or Michael Stone or Nick Milosh or any number of other guys, I think, based on the revenue you can probably make from 3-4 rounds of the playoffs, I'm pretty sure you're okay with eating a bit of a contract to have that body. And I think that's not an insignificant piece of business. But I think, if you're the Flames, this is be a fascinating year for how they manage the cap, because they have so many things they could be doing.
If you are as serious as winning as Calgary says they are, then that little bit of financial hiccup is not relevant, not as relevant as it should be. Like, if you're committed to winning, you're willing to spend that extra money to put a veteran in the minors. And that's only if one of the bubble kids that are prove it, like that they have to earn their spot with.
Even if they don't, man. Even if they I still think even if they end up signing Sonny Milano for a low cost deal, you're still going to be having some guys going up and down a lot this year. Like, they'll be taking the bus from Winsport to play in the NHL quite a bit this year.
Anytime they need someone, it's going to be a lot easier to get them up. You've got guys that have their development. Like, they've had a full year of pro now under their belt. That's Zari, that's Pelche, that's a lot of the younger kids that are expecting to take a jump. You've had Balamaki have an actual full healthy year in the minors, like a full healthy year, which he needed. Mackey as well, coming from college ranks. Like, you've got a lot of guys that are right there on the bubble fighting for spots that are now into another professional season. So yeah, like, it just makes everything easier all around. It just having the team here, and not to mention that you get to sell more jerseys to the locals. That helps too. So
Yeah, and like I know, like for those of you wondering, like how can they, we won't need to get into the logistics too much, but the idea being this. So if let's this way, the Flames and the Stampeders share a lot of business side employees.
they do.
And so do the Flames and the Hitmen, and adding the Wranglers in, like it makes the building a bit of a zoo. It means that you're going to have a lot of back and forth. Like even with just two teams, it was a bit hectic. But I mean, you're gonna have some hockey ops people. You need to hire like a separate coaching staff, training staff, those kind of things, things that you need every day. But instead of PR, for example, like instead of having like 3 sets of PR staff, you have one. Maybe you need to hire one extra person, or somebody does a little bit extra work, things like that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage that. It's going to be a fascinating year. There's a lot of weird things that could be happening. And okay, Shane, I'm curious for you. Okay, what are you when the preseason games get going on Sunday? What are you going to be watching out for, listening for, hoping to hear, see, taste, whatever the hell?
I want, number one thing that drives Calgary is their defense, and their defense needs to play that proper up pace system. I was thinking today, the way Calgary plays, if they get the puck back in their own zone, they need to make a very quick decision. I was watching, I'm going to cross over some sports here. I was watching Monday Night Football, and the average quarterback, Jalen Hurts, apparently holds the ball the longest. That's 3.1 seconds. So quarterbacks are getting the ball off really quick. It's the same thing with the defensemen when they get the puck in transition. You want that puck moved. You want it moved to a proper target, and you want to be able to move up ice. And I want to be able to see the defenseman continually push the pace back towards the opposition's end. So I'm really dialed in on the defense. I don't think we're going to see Kadri right away. Same thing that happened when Coleman came in. He sat out a lot of the games because he played a lot of hockey recently. Kadri just went through a brutal Stanley Cup playoff where he had to have surgery on his hand.
And now he has to make sure he's got the arm strength to carry that ring around.
Yeah,
he has a bunch of problems he's got to deal with.
So, but number one, first and foremost, I want to see the D, especially if you're going to make this roster as a defenseman, you need to be able to play that proper style of pace and be able to make the quick, right decisions. It's very important to be in the right spots and make the right choices. So that's what I'm looking for out of it. Specifically, I want to see how Uyghur does in the Sutter system. I have faith he'll be fantastic. But the bubble guys, the Mackey, the Valimaki, even the Nick Milosh. Nick Milosh is an underdog here. He made
Nick Milosh played about half the season in the NHL last year. On San Jose, but I mean he's an NHL player. He's a good AHLer. He was a good
came up through
NHL player on a bad team. But I mean, there's plenty of players who cut their teeth on bad teams and then they get to go on good teams. That's kind of how the system tends to work.
Yeah, well, and it's just a matter of sometimes it's situational fit. And Sutter said it last year. He said, just because you played minutes doesn't mean you played them right. You're not learning anything if you're playing 23 minutes a night and doing it wrong. You need to play proper minutes at the right style with the right guidance. And so a lot of these guys coming in might not be right there. Now, Florida played a very similar up-tempo pace last year, which is why I think Uyghur and Huberdeau will be able to slide in easier than a lot of people think. And same with Colorado. All those teams play that upper pace style. But the younger, like they said, those guys, those borderline, Sonny Milano coming from the Ducks, they weren't exactly high-flying competitive last year. And Columbus before that, they weren't exactly super competitive. They were playing the John Torts trap system back when he was in Columbus. So he's going to be very interesting. I want to see what he can do with decent line mates, with defensive line mates. Where's he going to slot in? His number one thing he brings is his passing ability. He had great metrics right up there with Johnny Gaudreau and Robert Thomas last year, who are two of the best passers in the league. He was right there with them in terms of passes to the slot. And he had a guy there, a young guy, you might heard of him. He's on the cover of the new EA Sports game, Trevor Zegras. He was feeding the puck a lot, and now he's going to have 3 great centers lining up in front of him, no matter who he plays with, to be able to dish the puck to. It's going to be interesting to see.
Here's the thing I'm kind of interested in, and I think you sort of touched on it. So, all due respect to the departed players, I think swapping out Eric and Branson for Mackenzie Wiegers is an upgrade. And I think more importantly, it sort of upgrades the third pair, because you're going to have someone who's probably playing the second pair or higher last year slide down and play with Nikita Zadorov, regardless of who he ends up playing with. And so I think one of the challenges is, so the Flames have tended to do what we affectionately call the 3 and 4, the third pair, fourth line group. And the worst combination of players for possession metrics last year was the 3/4, the fourth line and third pair, because it's just their transition game's not as good. And it's not as good because, all due respect to the players, you're playing with the worst pair of defensemen and it's the worst pair of forwards, because if you were better at transition hockey, you're probably playing higher in the rotation. So the thing that I'm curious about is, let's just say it's Chris Tanev. I don't think it'll be Chris Tanev, but let's just, for the sake of illustration, say it's Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev, for example, being on the third pair, how much will that improve the transition game? Because Tanev was really good last year at efficiently moving the puck up. He'd get the retrievals and then boom up the wall, they're out.
And retrievals, he's high on, like top of the leagues, and being able to get the puck like after dump ins, he's one of the highest. Anyway, sorry.
And so there's going to be new personnel, and so it'll be Lucic, who knows the system, and Rooney, who needs to learn it, and maybe Schwint, maybe probably Lewis, probably any combination. But there'll be a combination of new and old players playing on that third pair and the fourth line. And I'm just curious how, like, the thing I'll be watching for is, how does that group improve? Because, if the idea is you're using some slightly different personnel, maybe Adam Ruzicka, I assume we'll see Adam Ruzicka in that role at some point, but it's going to be really interesting to sort of see how they improve that a little bit. Because if the idea is, I think Daryl Sutter commented, I think it was Daryl. Yeah, Daryl commented in that nice Flames TV feature. Cheap plug, the folks at Flames TV did a fantastic video feature, a couple of them actually. They went to Daryl Sutter's farm and just hung out with him. And so it's just good stuff. If you have time after you finish listening to this podcast, go over to Flames TV, check it out. It's fantastic. But one of the things that Daryl mentioned is sort of like the idea that you got to get 10% better. And so everyone. So the idea is, what does 10% better look for that third group? I mean, it just means spending a little bit less time, maybe 10% less time in your zone. And if you improve your transitions a little bit, like slightly better retrievals, less passes that sort of die inside the blue line and come back your other way. Because I think the Achilles heel of the Flames in the past has been overly aggressive to the point of being sloppy clear outs that led to scoring chances against. We saw it, and I think if you look at the Edmonton series, I know, trigger warning everybody. If you look at the video of the Edmonton series and look at it from a clear eye perspective, there's a lot of things that say, okay, what happened on this goal? Well, there's some goals where the Flames simply couldn't get clear exits, or they got beat out to a puck, or they didn't get beat out to the puck, but they lost a battle once they got there. Those kind of things. If you win a little bit more of those, then that's huge. And I think that might be the secret to the secret sauce this year for the Flames, because if you spend a little bit less time in your own end, then it's a little bit less wear and tear on your Tanevs, your Shillingtons, your Andersons, your Wiegers. I think the lifeblood of the team will be the defensive health and the defensive depth. And if you have them spending a little bit less time getting bonked around by big dudes in their own zone, come April, May, June, they have a little bit more left in the tank, and that could make a huge, huge difference.
And they've got more, and that's the other thing, they've got more personnel for their fourth line. Like last year, it was pretty much just the same three guys. This year, now that they've added Rooney, okay, now we've got a natural center that can play there.
Even last year, like who they have? They had
Lewis and
Lucic. It was Lucic.
They had Lewis and Lucic.
Sometimes Carpenter, sometimes Ruzicka, sometimes Richardson. But it was always 17 and 22, and then a rotation of third guys.
Yeah, and it was whoever's on the strong side, Lewis or Lucic, They were the face-off guys. You got to remember, Lucic is still a face-off guy. He still plays wing, but he still takes the draw.
He's not bad at it either.
He's actually pretty good at it. It's actually a little hidden talent of the little big man there. But I'm avidly out of the box from a lot of people. I think the fourth line plays a different role. They play a different job, different style, and they're not supposed to play like everybody else. Now, the one thing I want them to improve on is their possession. I want them to keep the puck more. I want them to win those races more. And that's the 10% I think you're talking about. Those guys need to be able to push them back in behind the net, maintain possession. So then when they change and Huberdeau comes out, the puck's already in the offensive zone for him. He doesn't need to get it in there. That's the 10% I want to see better.
I would say this. They have a different style, but they need to play the same system. And I think the challenge was at times they didn't look like they were playing the same system as often as the other guys were. And I think that's what the 10% is. I think the 10% for those guys is if they can be a little more seamless, a little more integrated into what the team is doing, then because let's be honest, I mean, Michael Backlund plays a different style of hockey than Lindholm. He has a different role. So it's like, as long as you're playing, it's like an orchestra. They got to be in the same band. You can play the tuba and play the cymbals and play the tambourine or whatever. As long as you're playing on the same piece of music, it sounds good. Yeah. But I think too often with the fourth line, it was like they were playing a completely different sheet of music than everybody else. Not too often. I thought they were pretty good, especially in the middle third of the season. I thought they ended up coming to. I think one of the reasons we're talking about Adam Ruzicka as a potential NHLer come October 13th is because he was so good in that middle third of the season. I think his game kind of fell off a little bit the longer he was in the NHL, but I thought he was really, really good in 2 out of 3 zones. And I think, much like the other guys, if he can sort of figure out a little bit more of his defensive zone play and his play away from the puck, they have a lot of options.
Play on the boards. For me, it was Ruzicka being able to just keep possession. He's big and he's lanky, and it's easy for you to get in underneath and get the puck from him. If he doesn't have it properly shielded, he needs to just be a little better on the boards and the puck protection, especially like that's what we're talking about. We want to keep the puck for these guys. We want to get the puck deep. They're never going to carry it. They're too slow. I'm sorry, you are. Dump it in. But you got to get it on the forecheck and then keep it down there. So that's. But again, if we're arguing about the fourth line logistics, like let's be real. The game's won or lost with the other guys. The top guys, they need to be able to put the puck in the net. They need to capitalize on the opportunities they create. And it's going to be interesting because we can speculate like we have all summer, but Brad said it, we'll see. We need to see who lines up with which center. And Sutter made a nice comment this summer. Eric was interviewing him. Eric Francis did an interview with him on the Francis Fridays, I believe it was. And he asked what a role Montepani was going to play. And Daryl straight up said, well, that depends on which center he plays. Like it's the center that matters. And you got a coach that knows it. And so, like we always look, okay, Lindholm's a shutdown guy and a center. Backlund's a premier shutdown guy. Kadri is an unreal possession player. Like that's what people don't understand about him. He is a killer at keeping the puck down low and keeping the puck on his team stick. And if he can work in conjunction with the D, it works even better. But you're going to need a winger to play with each one of those guys that understands what center wants to do at any given time. And that might be different than what we think on paper. And we talked about what I wanted to see out of the defense. That's what interests me the most in the forwards camp. That's what I'm going to watch. When I'm watching the center, when I'm watching the forwards, I'm looking for the center and I'm looking for what the wingers are doing in conjunction with the center. So,
yeah, we'll get into, let's get into what do we want to see? Like, what's our wish list? Things we want to see, things we could be excited to see in the preseason. I'll put out something, and it's something that I didn't expect to want to see. So I really loved Adam Klapka in Penticton. He was the revelation for me in Penticton. I did not expect him to be that good. And granted, he's a 22-year-old, 6'7", 6'8", 230-pound dude. So you would expect he's playing against a bunch of younger guys who were smaller than him that he would stand out. And he did. So good for him. Adam Klapka, this is nothing but a love zone for Adam Klapka. This is a love in for Adam Klapka. Here's what I want to see. And I didn't think I'd want to see this until I saw it. So I want to see at some point in the preseason a line of Lucic, Martin Pospisil, and Adam Klapka. Pospisil can play center, and Lucic can take faceoffs. And if the idea is you want, Klapka's a big dude. He uses his size well. He didn't really play mean yet, but it was also
wasn't
a rookie
aggressive.
tournament. So I don't really think that's his role quite yet. But
I don't think any of them were as aggressive as they needed to be. I think they were all.
I think that they're dipping their toe in the pool. I get it.
Yeah.
But if Milan Lucic might be the best guy to teach some younger guys about how to toe that line, how to use your size effectively without being a complete goon about it. And imagine, like, Martin Pospisil is low-key one of my favorite prospects in the organization because he's got good numbers. He just doesn't stay healthy. If he could stay healthy, if he had any kind of injury luck, he's got terrible luck right now. If he had better luck, he'd only have merely bad luck. He's got terrible luck. So he's owed a bit of health, a bit of good luck injury-wise. But imagine Pospisil is a big dude who can crash and bash. Lucic, he's made his career crashing and bashing.
Let Lucic coach him and go Pospisil, Ruzicka, Klapka, because Ruzicka's 6'4". We forget about that, and I want him to be a little more physical as well. So
although if
you could go Lucic,
if we're talking about just pure forecheckers, guys that don't really have much beyond bam, they're a good forechecker. Brett Ritchie's right there, and I thought one of the more effective fourth lines they ran with last year for a good chunk was Lucic, Ruzicka, and they had they're rotating Lewis and Ritchie in that role, but. Yeah, I think if the idea is the difference between some of these kids being in the system longer or being in the NHL for spurts and not is their ability to sort of play that sort of physical up-tempo forecheck style, they have a lot of guys who have the ability to teach them. And all due respect to the guys that are in the system, Trevor Lewis has made a damn good living being just a good forechecker. Does he have a lot? Does he have tippity top skill? No, but he works his ass off, and he's the kind of guy who makes the guys on his line work as hard as he is. And Brett Ritchie, you can say what you want about what he isn't. What he is he's, I was joking with, I think I was talking with Pat or someone else the other day, and here's my description of Brett Ritchie. He'll play 40 games, he'll score 2 really nice goals, and you won't notice him for months at a time. But that's the whole point of a fourth liner. He's just barreling at guys. And Lucic does the same kind of thing, except Lucic has arguably a higher skill ceiling, so he scores more nice goals than Brett Ritchie does. But if the idea is you want to get Pospisil to be a full-timer, you want to potentially get Ruzicka, any number of these guys, Walker Dorr is another dark horse for me. They have so many of those guys that can come in and sort of play that fourth line, maybe 3.5 fifth line, if you don't mind your third line being a little bit low on skill temporarily due to injury. They have a lot of options.
I'm glad you brought Klapka. Klapka made a fan of me. Originally I saw it. I looked at his statistics. I hadn't really watched him skate, and I was like, oh, this Hunter Smith thing, right? Like it's just a big guy that they want to see what he does. I
believe our dear friend, permanent editor emeritus, Kent Wilson once used the term Coke machine to describe that type of player. Keegan Kanzig's another one of those where dudes that are big and dudes that are good at lower levels because they're big. But, and they don't really develop skills beyond being big because they don't have to.
Then as soon as the rookie game started, he was not a step back. His skating was not any slower. He was originally playing with Zari, I think, to start. And I noticed he was going step for step with him up the ice. And I was like,
he was with Zari and Emilio Peterson for a bit.
And then this bugger is in the corner and he comes out with a slick toe drag out of the corner and backhands it on net. And I'm like, wait, you got hands too?
Yeah,
you're 6 foot in, and you're not supposed to have.
There was 2 goals in the Winnipeg game that were scored as a result of him going, okay, I'm gonna go stand in front of the goalie now, and it's like having a brick wall in front of you. How do you if you're a goalie, how do you look around that guy?
Like the Bruins for years kept putting Chara sporadically in front of the net, and he's a defenseman. Take the friggin' 6'8" guy that's an actual forward already, John Scott sized but with better hands, and put him there, and then you might actually clear up a few more rebounds on the power play. Adam Klapka interests the heck out of me, and I do want to see him on a power play unit in the Wranglers this year.
You might see him on a power play unit in the NHL preseason because there's
makes sense.
He has so many tools, and there's plenty of guys that have tools but no toolbox. But so far, granted, based on 3 games against under
22 and under, pretty much
of the Western Canadian prospect pool, he impressed. And he was in a position to be impressive. So
he didn't look lost. He didn't look completely lost. There was a couple plays like Lucas Siona and stuff, he was just throwing. There was occasionally he was in the corner, he'd throw pucks out.
You and I, my friend, have watched a lot of hockey, a lot of good hockey and a lot of bad hockey. There's two phrases, the same phrase for different ways, that can mean good or bad things. The "what the hell is this kid?" and the "who the hell is this kid?"
Yeah,
We got more of the
we got more of the
like there's so
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be really interesting to see how he does. Christopher Seedoff is the other one. Seedoff. I apologize if I get your name wrong, sir, because you played really well in the tournament. And Mike Gould on Twitter was very adamant that the Flames should bring him to camp. And granted, I don't think they listen to Mike. I think they're bringing him to camp regardless.
He's bladed to talking. For
yeah, and he was he was very good for the Rebels last year. He was good for he played in Liga in his home of Finland during the pandemic 2021 season, and then the year before he was up with the Rebels as an import. So he hasn't been drafted because he sort of bounced around a bit, but he's really intriguing because like he's got the size, he's got the mobility, he put pucks on net, and again he impressed in a situation where he was guys who have some skill in kind of muck and grind September hockey, especially the first 2 weeks of September when guys are getting their legs under them. It's easier to be impressive. I really want to see if he gets into any preseason games because I think there might be something there. And granted, the Flames have 100,000 defensemen listed. I almost blew out my voice listing all the defensemen they have under various levels of contracts, but he's the kind of guy where, he could go back to the Rebels as an overager, or you can maybe, do you want to sign him and put him in Stockton or Calgary Wranglers? Do you want to sign him and maybe tuck him in Rapid City and have him go nuts there? They have a lot of different options at their disposal. And, like Brad for Living said, if, he said, in response, I think a question I asked him about a lot of different guys they have at various levels and potential depth. He's like, they're interested in winning at various levels. They want to win the AHL level too. And if you're someone they think can help them, they're going to find a way to keep you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, agree completely there. I think camp, if we're going to talk about how camp's going to go, I think after the split squad games, anyone aged 20 and under that's eligible for junior is sent to junior, partially because the coach said last year, if you're a junior age player, you go back to junior and try to win a championship. It's his philosophy, and I don't think we have any 19-year-olds that are going to change his opinion on that. And then though, that's Sunday. I think that takes us to Sunday.
The split squad game's on Sunday the 25th, and then they have another game in Seattle on the 27th.
Yeah, so after that game, I'm very curious who they keep, because after that, if it's like last year, the only people that are going to still be around after that are going to be the guys that have a shot. They're pretty typical at, okay, everyone gets a game or two, and then we're trying to set up for camp. We're trying to set up for the season here.
And so, at a certain point, they're going to curve off the Wranglers guys and sort of assign them to win.
Wranglers camp will start up pretty usually a week after NHL camp,
week to 10 days. So maybe like end of next, at the end of after next weekend. I think 10 days in. I think right around October 1st. I think you're going to be looking and getting into Wranglers time.
Mm-hmm. So that the one thing I want to see out of the forward group more than anything is I want to see Dylan Dubé take a step. That could be a huge, besides all of the new additions up front, the X factor. If Dylan Dubé takes a step we've all been waiting for him to take, it'll put Calgary into a really, really good spot, because if he can become a consistent 20-goal threat, then it's just another weapon they have on the wing with their already deep centers. So Dylan Dubé, of the existing players that are coming back that have played full seasons for the Flames, is the guy I want to see take the biggest step. And I have faith he can do it. His skill's there. The skill is there. I see it. But it's got to come together every night. So that's what I'm hoping for.
And I think that'll about do it. I think, Shane, next week, let's do a mid preseason or a mid camp mailbag. We'll go out on Twitter. We'll go, those are always fun. So if you're following us on Twitter, social, whatever, send, and Shane and I will both separately do calls for questions a couple days out. I might start doing it on after I do our regular website mailbag. I'll do
the Monday one, and then on Tuesday I'll go.
Well, let's do a series of mailbags. Never ending mailbag. But I think once we get some preseason games in, I think people will get real curious about a lot of specific things, and that's kind of the fun thing, because we've been in the we'll see mode for what, 2 months, basically since
Oh, yeah.
since the guts of the roster got exploded and then rebuilt. It's been, we'll see. Well, we are going to see, and there's going to be,
Yeah.
I think I posted on Twitter, the Flames between now and the end of October, or between now and the end of September, rather, the Flames play 5 preseason games. So in the next 9 days, 9 or 10 days, they play, 5 preseason games.
I'd rather watch 1,000 preseason games than watch what my Minnesota Vikings did on Monday against Philly. So I am geared up and ready to go.
See, this is why I never had the emotional bandwidth for the NFL, because I just can't handle getting kicked in the stomach like that. I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm used to getting kicked in the stomach.
Yeah, no, that was anyways.
Anyway, while we revel in Shane's misery, we might as well wrap up. FlamesNation Radio is brought to you by DoorDash and by Eau Claire Distillery, the makers of Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. Shane and I, and maybe a special guest, will be back in a week where we talk about any number of things, and we take your questions and your comments, and then Shane and I make faces at each other on Zoom and hope that there's interesting things, hockey things to talk about, because that's what you're here for. For Shane, I'm Ryan. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Please, if you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or the YouTube channel, subscribe, comment, like, especially if there's stuff you like, let us know. We'll do more.
Yeah,
if there's stuff you don't like, well, we'll just ignore your comments, but maybe we'll get better at things. Who knows? It's been a year of this. It's been really fun, and we're looking forward to making year 2 of FlamesNation Radio even better. We have a lot of fun things in store, so stay tuned, and thank you again for listening, watching, commenting, subscribing, poking, prodding, hurling things at us, hopefully compliments, but also constructive criticisms. For Shane, I'm Ryan. Have a great week, guys.